Hi everyone, welcome to day 9 of my 100-day challenge. Today we'll be solving entry-level SQL question asked in Uber data analyst interview. So let's see the question. So the question says you have two tables. One is passenger table, which is passenger ID, passenger name, passenger rating, and the joining date. One is driver table, which is driver ID, driver name, driver rating, and the joining date. And the third table is ride table, which is ride ID, driver ID, passenger ID, ride date, ride distance, and ride cost. So the first question we need to solve, which is find the driver with the highest rating. The second question which we have, which is calculate the total revenue generated by each driver. Third question is find the passenger with the highest number of rides. And the fourth question is identify the most frequent ride distance. So let's see how we can solve this question. Now I have already created table and imported this data into pgadmin 4. So let's go ahead and start writing queries for these problems. Now here you can see I have already created table and imported this data. Now if in case you want to practice the same questions, I'm going to add a link in the video descriptions from where you can download this query and you can practice and solve the same question. So let's see the tables. So we have first table, which is passenger table. So let's run this query and to see the data. So we have three passenger details and you can see ID, name, rating, and the joining date. We have driver's details, which is driver table. Now that has the driver informations, which is you can see driver ID, driver name, driver rating, joining date. And we have rides table, which is having rides informations like ride ID, driver ID, passenger ID, ride ID, and ride date, distance, and the cost. So let's see the first question. So the first question says find the driver with the highest rating. So this is the most easy question. Now we can see the driver tables to solve these questions. We need to find out the driver with the highest rating. Now if you see this table, we can see that we have three drivers at the moment, and this driver has the highest rating, right, which is Bob. So we can simply do a order by this column, and then we can do a limit one. That is how we can select the driver with the highest rating. So let's do a order by to solve this one. So order by this column. Now order by has two arguments, which is order by descending or ascending. By default, if you don't give anything, it is going to be in ascending orders, and if in case you want in descending, then you need to write DESC. So we'll say order by, and then we put a column name. So it's going to be driver rating. Now you can always give a 2-column name or 3-column name. You can do order by 2-column, 3-column, depending on the requirement. So first order by is going to be done by the first column that you have given. So we only need to do it order by one column, which is driver rating, and we will do in descending. So descending is going to ensure that the highest rating will come on the first. So now let's run this query to see it. Now I can see we have the data in descending order by this column, which is driver rating. So we just need to select this first employee, which has the highest rating. So I'm going to use limit 1. Now this limit function is going to select the first row from this result. So I'm going to say limit 1, and I'll just run it, and we will have the driver details, which has the highest rating. Now we only need the driver name and the rating. So we can go ahead and delete rest of the columns. So we only need driver name, and we need rating, right? Driver rating. So this was the question 1 answer. Now let's see the question 2. Let's run this question. I see we have both the column that we need and their answer, right? Now let's see the question number 2. So in the question number 2, it says calculate the total revenue generated by each driver, return the driver name, ID, and the revenue. So let's first see the driver table. In the driver table, we have the driver name, and we do have the driver ID, right? Let's see the ride table. In the ride table, we have ride ID, driver ID, passenger ID, ride date, ride distance, ride cost, but we do not have a driver name. So what we need, the driver name and the total revenue that driver has collected so far. So we need to join both the table based on this driver ID, because if I give you this table, right, if I ask you, hey, what is the driver name for driver 1? So you can go to the driver and you can see which driver has driver ID 1, and you can tell me the name, which is John, right? So we need to do a join to join both the table. Then we can do a group by this driver ID and the driver name, and we just need to do a sum on this total cost. So that is going to be our revenue. So let's see how we can do it. So I'm going to select everything for now just to show you. So I'm going to say select everything from drivers, and I will do inner join. So join, and I'll join with ride tables. So let's go ahead and say join with rides, and I will ride table, I will name it as R, and driver table I will name it as D. Now I will say on, and I will say r dot driver id d dot driver id. So you see both the table has the same column, which is driver id. So based on the same column, I am joining both the table. Now I'm just going to run this query to see what are the columns we get. Now I'm selecting all the columns at the moment from both the table, just to show you. After doing this join, I'll be getting all the driver name from the driver table and all the right information from the right table. Now I can see we have both the table and there all the columns from both the table. So we are having driver id, driver name, driver rating, joining date, right? So till here we are getting the informations from the driver table. Now you see from here we are getting the informations from the right table, because we have done inner join based on this driver id and this driver id, which is this driver id. So based on the match, we are getting the name for the driver. Now what we need to do is basically we need to do just a group by this driver name and this driver id, and then we can do a sum on this right cost. That is going to give us the total revenue. Now the reason why we will do group by this two column, because we need the driver name as well, and we cannot do a group by the driver name because there could be two driver with the same name. So we can go ahead and say that here I will be selecting the columns that I need. So I will be getting first the driver id, which I can select from any of the tables. I would say d of driver id, and I would say d of driver name, and what I need is the total right cost, this one, right? I need to do a sum on this column because I want to see each driver id and the driver name and the total right that driver has done, the total amount of right, you can see this cost, right? So the revenue which is going to be, so I would say sum of this right cost. Now this right cost is coming from our table, which is rights table. Now these are coming from the drive table. That's the reason I am giving this alias, which is here. You see I have given some short alias, the short name. Now I can just go ahead and do a group by this column, which is first column and second column. So group by 1 and 2 I can see, because I want to see each driver id and name and then their total right cost. So I can go ahead and run this query. That's going to give me each driver id and their name and the amount of ride they have done. Okay, now if in case I need the total number of ride they have done, I can simply say count of star. That is going to give me the total number of ride they have done. So I can save it as number of rides, and I can save it as total revenue. So I think these are the only things I need. Now I can just go ahead and run this query. Now the reason why I have used group by 1 or 2, so 1 represent the first column from this select and from statement, and 2 represent this is the second column. So this is going to be one column, and this is going to be second column. Now if in case you want to write the whole name, you can write it, but being lazy you can just replace with this alias, which is going to be shorter. Now if in case you want to write it, I can show you here. If in case I want to write the whole name, I can go ahead and copy it here, and this one as well also I can write it here. Now you will see I will be getting the same answer. You see I'm getting 3 drivers and their total revenue and the total rights. So I can use this way as well. So I feel this one is the easy, because you need to type little less, but you're getting the same answer, which is correctly. So this is fine. Now let's see the question number 3. So in the question number 3, it says find the passenger with the highest number of rides, return the passenger name, id and number of rides. So it's the same what we have done here, where we have got the driver id and the driver name and the number of rides and the total amount of revenue. Here we need the opposite, which is here we need the passenger name and the passenger id. Okay, so we can use the same logic what we have used in the first query. So we can go ahead and say that we need everything. Now here I will do the join, instead of drivers I will do the join with passenger table. So that is here, you can see here. So it's passenger table. Let me just copy the table name. So I can just replace it with the passenger table, because from the passenger table I am joining with the ride table, because I need each passenger and the total number of rides they have done, right? So I can say passenger table as P and ride table as R, and I will be joining condition is going to be P dot Now p dot, so it's going to be p dot passenger id, because if you see both the table they have which is common column, that is passenger id, because in the right table I hope you remember we do have passenger id. We don't have the passenger information, but we have an id. Based on this id we can go to the passenger table and we can get the passenger name. Now if you see this passenger table, so that table has this passenger id and their name associated with this passenger id. So we can do a join this table and that table based on this passenger id, which I was doing. So I'm going to say p dot, instead of driver id it's going to be passenger id as passenger id, and that's going to be d dot, so d dot again, not d, it's going to be r dot passenger id. Because I am joining passenger table, I'm giving a short name as p and I'm joining right with the right table because I want to see each passenger and the ride informations, which is the total number of rides they have done. So my join is done, then I just need to do a group by again first and second columns, and I need to select the right column here. So what I need here is basically you can say p dot passenger id, p dot passenger id, I need p dot passenger name, which is going to be passenger passenger name. I think I have done a spelling mistake here, which is going to be passenger id, p dot passenger id and p dot passenger name, and I need the right cost. If in case I need the total revenue, I can keep it or I can just ignore it, because in the interviewer it only asks for the passenger with the highest number of rides. Because in the question if you see it has asked for the passenger with the highest number of ride, so we can go ahead and say we don't need this one, so I can just comment it out for now. We need the number of rides, which is again this count function is going to do a number of rides that they have done. So this is the first thing, first column, this is second column. Now I just need to do a group by the first column and second column, so I can go ahead and say group by 1, which means by first column, then group by second column, then I will have this count. Okay, so it looks fine. So p dot passengers id, p dot passengers name, and then I have this count. Now I can count this on this rights table. So again that's going to be fine because we have done an inner join, but still I can just select the right table. So based on this passenger id from the passenger table and this ride and the right table of passengers id, I'm doing the join. So let's run this query and we will have all the passenger name and the number of rides they have done. So let's see. So I missed a comma here because this column, after this column I want this column, right? So I can just delete this one just to ignore it. Okay, now let's just run this query. So we will have all the passengers id, you can see, and their name and their number of ride they have done. Now we can see we are getting two passengers with the same number of ride, so we cannot select one passengers because they both have the same number of ride. So in this type of situations, to get the correct data who has the maximum ride, now there could be 2, 3 or 5 or more. So what we can do, we can use a window functions called rank, and we can, based on this number, we can give some ranking here. So the highest number would get a rank 1, then the second highest would get rank 2, and so on so on. So I can go ahead and say here ranks. So the syntax is very simple. You say rank and you need to say over. Now inside the over you can do a partition by if in case necessary. Now we don't have to do a partition because we want simple ranking based on this number. So highest number get rank 1, then rank 2, then so on so on. So if there are 2 or 3 or more highest number, they get the rank 1. So I can simply do a order by this column, which is called order by this column in descending. I need the largest to get the highest ranking, which is the rank 1. So this is going to give me that. Now I can use as ranks as an alias. Now here you cannot use this alias, okay, because we are creating this column. So in this function, if you are using a window function, you need to put this whole column name instead of giving this alias. So looks fine. Let's go ahead and run this query. It's going to create a new window and it's going to assign ranking. Now you see the first column, the first two record, because they have the same number of rights, so they are getting rank 1. The second one is getting rank 3, so it has skipped rank 2. Now if in case you don't want this simple rank, you can use a dense rank, which is not going to skip the ranking. So this passenger is going to get a rank 2 in that case, because if you need the first two passengers with the highest number of ranking, then you can use a dense rank here. That's the difference between rank and dense rank. Now what I need, I can filter this by this column, right? I can say rank equals 1. That is how I'll be selecting all those passengers who has the right 1. So what I can do, I have to approach, I can use a subquery or CTE here. So today I'm going to use a CTE here. So I can say with Now CTE full form is common table expressions, which you can create a temporary table inside your query. So to store this data in a table, and then you can, from that table you can select the data, because see, now we need to do a filter by this column which is called ranks. Now this is not an actual column, so we cannot filter by this column here. So what I can do, we can save this table in a CTE, then we can do a filter by this column. So we need to first come out of this table, store this table in a CTE, and that table will have this column, then we can do a filter by this column. So syntax is simple. You say with, and you can give a name called, maybe something called ranks table, or you can give any name, and you just need to give alias, which is s, and inside this parenthesis you just need to just put your the whole query, and you need to say simple like this. Okay, now I'll just move it one indentations to the right. Now here I need to select whatever I need from this table. So let's see what are the things we need. We need to find the passengers with the highest number of rides, passengers name, ID, and number of rides. So I think we need everything except this one. We don't need this ranks, so I'm going to select. So we're expecting this to, right, Charlie and David, because they are having the highest number of ride, which is 2, right? So I'm going to say select everything from this table, which is ranks table. Now this table does exist inside this query. Okay, and I can say where ranks equal 1. So that is how I select all the passengers who has the highest number of ride. So let's go ahead and run it. Now you need to ensure that if you are creating a CTE, whatever you are selecting, it is next to the CTE. So let's see, there's a syntax error, so I'm saying okay, this from twice, I just need to delete it, and let's run it again. Now I can see we are getting 2 passenger details, which is Charlie and David, and their number of rides, right? Now we don't need this rank, so we can go ahead and ignore it. So we can say here, what I need is passenger ID, I need passenger name, I need this one, which is called number of rides, right? No rides, number of rides. Okay, these are the 3 columns I need. Now every time you run your query, you need to make sure that this whole query is selected, because once you run this query, SQL is going to first execute this query. This is going to create a table, that table is going to store here, and from this table you are selecting the data. So let's see. Now see, we are getting the same David and Charlie and their number of rides. So this is how we have solved the question number 3. Now let's move to the question number 4. Now before we solve the question number 4, I would like to request you to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you really like my content. Now before we solve the question number 4, I would like to request you to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you really like this type of content and if you enjoy solving this challenge questions. So let's continue the video and solve this question number 4. Now the question number 4 says, identify the most frequent ride distance, return the ride distance and the number of frequency. So first we need to see the table to see what are the things we need. So we need ride tables. So let's go ahead and say select star from rides. So let's see. So in the table we have the ride information. So you can see here ride ID, passengers ID. What you need is this ride distance. Now in this ride distance, we need to find out which distance has the highest frequency, like highest number of rides. Now if you see this table, this distance, you can see this distance, which is 15 kilometer. So this distance has 2 rides, right? 1 ride and this 2 ride. Now we need this distance and the number of rides, right? So let's write query to solve this one here. So we need this column, which is called ride distance here. Now I can go ahead and write a ride distance, and can write count of this ride ID or count of star as frequency. Okay, now if in case I need this count, I need to do a group by this column, because I want to see each ride distance and their number of frequency. Now number of time that this ride took place in that distance. So I just need to do a group by this column, which is called group by 1, which is the first column. Now that is going to give me each ride distance and their frequency. Now number of ride that took place for that distance. Now if I just run this query, you will see the answer. Now you see here we have this one, which has 2 ride, rest all the distance has only 1 ride. So we can go ahead and now select this one by simply doing order by this column, which is called frequency, which is column frequency, and I just need to say limit 1. So this is going to Select the distance that has the highest frequency, the highest number of writes. I need to order by in descending because I want to see the highest number of frequency first, right? So let's run it. Now you see we have 15-kilometer distance which has the highest frequency, that is 2 right in this distance. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching the video till the end, and if you really like my content and if you really want to take this 100 days challenge, you can join our Discord. You can check the link in the video descriptions, and also I would like to request you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like the video if you really like my content. See you next day. Have a good day. Take care. Bye bye.